Now, first of all, look, no offense to fans of Reacher, we're fans too, but if it came down to a mano-a-mano fight, John Wick would win. Considering Jack Reacher's incessant need to wander aimlessly, there is always a chance he could find himself in another franchise, including John Wick. Hi, I'm ScreenRant senior reporter Brennan Klein, and today let's talk about what would happen if the John Wick movies and the Prime Video Jack Reacher universe crossed over. Look, let's not beat around the bush here. Jack Reacher might have a Purple Heart and 2 silver stars in his service record, but he's only a human. John Wick at this point, even though certain scenes show that he has vulnerabilities, he's basically a figure from legend. He's a mythic figure. There's a reason he's called the Baba Yaga. So the only thing thicker than his Kevlar suit is his plot armor. He's going to be really difficult to beat. Obviously, Reacher is a burly brawler and he might have an advantage in hand-on-hand combat, but John Wick is such an expert with weapons that basically any object in his hand can become a force for violence. He could just bide his time until he finds, say, a pencil. Basically anything lying around he can turn into a weapon, turn the tables on Jack Reacher. Additionally, if Jack Reacher is gathering his friends for a gunfight, that's definitely where John Wick excels. He would turn them into mincemeat in a matter of seconds. That's obviously he's a gun fu expert. And Jack Reacher is a great man, he's a powerful man, but he's not a legend, he's a human being. However, there is one advantage that Reacher has over John. Obviously, he's not going to go down easy, even though John Wick has an extreme advantage over him. So that will allow him some time to potentially get a few words in. And once you get Reacher talking, he'll cut straight to the point. He's basically a modern-day Sherlock Holmes. He'll be able to read John Wick, his motivations, everything that makes him tick, and kind of get to the meat of the conversation that they need to be having in order to avoid fighting further. So at some point, he's gonna get down to brass tacks and ask the important question, why are we fighting in the first place? It makes more sense for John Wick and Jack Reacher to be allies. They famously have a lot in common. They both love dogs, they both have a complicated past related to a powerful institution that burned them after they gave their lives to them. It all works out. While a Reacher versus Wick fight would kind of be inevitable at the beginning of any crossover featuring the pair of them teaming up would be just as inevitable. Ultimately, it would be pretty easy to get John Wick and Jack Reacher in a room together and provide them with a common enemy. Because of how powerful both of their enemies are, it makes a lot of sense that either somebody that Reacher burned would hire John Wick for one last seemingly impossible job, or vice versa. Someone could hire Reacher to look into the high table, look into John Wick, something that would correlate with both universes really seamlessly. But much like Superman and Batman, while they might fight at the beginning, they would team up pretty quickly, and they wouldn't even have to share a mother's name to make that happen. Once that does happen, it's the buddy movie you never thought you needed.
I'll be fine, Father. I have righteousness on my side.
They're both meant a few words, but if they were partners investigating a case, Reacher's unfiltered observations would be a perfect foil for John Wick's dry detachment. Think True Detective Season 1, but more of an action-driven, gun-fu, dark comedy. While John's superior lethality would earn Reacher's respect, John would have to kind of defer to Reacher when it comes to his skill set, which is detective work, putting together clues, reading people's intentions. By putting their heads together, they're up for any challenge, even if they sustain major damage along the way, as they are wont to do. Frankly, Reacher and John's chemistry would be off the charts. Reacher could make fun of the cultish rules of the assassin society that John Wick exists in, while Wick could teach him how to load a gun faster, how to not resort to serial killer stuff like breaking someone's bones to fit their body into a car trunk. Although the genre usually requires one rule follower and one wild card, both would be the wild card, but just on opposite ends of the spectrum of what that means, which could be very exciting. And that might just be the tongue-in-cheek approach that a new installment in the John Wick universe or the Reacher universe would require to stay fresh. However, there's another approach that could be just as interesting and embrace the blood-soaked severity at the core of both franchises instead of going in a new direction. Think about this. What if it was John Wick who killed Reacher's father? Reacher's dad, as we know, was a stone-cold killer and former Marine, and he's exactly the kind of guy who would entail the Baba Yaga's services. Reacher's father also would have been active in the military right when John was earning his reputation as the deadliest assassin on the planet. John Wick's next great enemy might very well be a master detective looking for his father's killer. Whether through his capable hands or his smart mouth, Reacher could tear through John Wick's world on his own terms. And when he finally gets to the end of that gauntlet, he will have to face off against John Wick, and John might actually find the peace that he's been looking for, knowing that he would be killed by a man seeking justified revenge. On the other hand, an alternative option is that John could reluctantly kill Reacher in self-defense despite his respect for his opponent. He'd be left alone to contemplate the river of blood in Reacher's wake, or given Reacher's hulking stature, it might even be a Tarantino-esque ocean of blood. And a third option would be that both of them wind up dead at the end of the movie in a grisly tableau in an epic tale of bitter justice. After all, both Reacher and John are driven by revenge, a theme that would naturally dominate any crossover that involves both of those characters. While canonically killing off both of those cash cows in one fell swoop seems unlikely, maybe an actual crossover between Reacher and John Wick isn't that improbable. Of course, the budget would have to be monumental. Like John Wick Chapter 4, a proper crossover would demand a budget that's probably $100 million or more, which is pretty par for the course for any ambitious action blockbuster. That may sound like a lot, but $100 million is pretty small compared to the potential gains if it's done right. This crossover could break box office records. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. In addition to maintaining really good Rotten Tomatoes scores across both franchises, John Wick Chapter 4 just grossed over $440 million worldwide. It pushed the entire franchise to a cumulative box office of more than $1 billion. And Reacher as a streaming show doesn't have box office numbers, but it's clearly doing well. Season 3 has not even premiered yet, and the show has already been renewed for Season 4, which proves what a mainstream popular title it is. While Reacher showrunner Nick Santora and John Wick director Chad Stahelski have never mentioned anything about working together, that doesn't mean it wouldn't happen if the right script landed in their laps. Additionally, Alan Ritchson and Keanu Reeves could become driving forces in the negotiations, especially considering how popular both of them are and how synonymous with the characters they have become. Given the potential gains, it honestly wouldn't be such an out there idea to do this crossover. Maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a miniseries called Jack and John. If anything, the biggest hurdle would be licensing. So Reacher is an Amazon MGM Studios production, while John Wick is a Lionsgate property. There's not necessarily a strong history of collaboration between the two studios, but Lionsgate and Amazon have struck deals in the past regarding other entertainment spheres. In fact, really recently, in April 2024, the companies made a content deal where Lionsgate would allow some of their proprietary content, including Starz exclusives, to stream on Amazon's MGM Plus in the United Kingdom. Obviously, that's a very different type of deal. It's regional, it's streaming, but it does show that the companies aren't opposed to collaboration in certain ways, and they have each other's phone numbers. It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that their partnership could continue with something a lot stronger and a lot more blood-soaked.
Whoever it is, I'll kill them. I'll kill them all.
So, tell us what you think. Do you think a John Wick and Jack Reacher crossover could actually happen at some point in the next few years or decades or whatever it's going to be? Tell us in the comments and keep watching Screen Rant.